Hello, friend. We are here to talk about Mr. Robot Season 3, Episode 4. Come on and join us.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I feel like I'm giving too much
That's
neck
right.
on my dance, where I'm just like...
I'm giving a little bit shoulder.
No, I think you're into it. That you're the appropriate amount of into it for this song. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mr. Robot After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kaufmann. How quickly I dropped the affectation from the cold open. Hello, friend. I'm done. Hey, I'm me now.
All right, I'm Lesley, Corral, and you can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at Lesley the Face.
Just JC Rubio is working a gig out in Nevada, and Rick
is sick.
Rick is sick.
Rick's sick, man.
Or
So
we're
it's just us two.
or we're just in the universe where that's happening.
Yeah.
There are infinite
They haven't caught up
universes,
to
so
our
there's
plane yet.
so there are universes where all four of us are here, full strength,
That's
going
right.
at it. There are universes where I'm not the lead host. I don't like those universes. I like this one. This episode, though.
Yeah.
Well, this show in general, just so well, like slowly woven
We're
stories.
four episodes in now. What do you think of the season so far?
I'm enjoying this season. Mm-hmm. I think part of it is I had all of season 2 to let go of the idea that there's gonna be this huge payoff, and
Okay.
I'm actually diving into these well-written,
So you
well-rounded.
don't think there's going to be one? Because I still do.
I mean, I'm not seeking the payoff anymore.
Okay.
Whereas like season 1 had that perception shift and like mind blown, man. And then season 2 had one that still caught me, didn't catch most people.
It caught me.
It caught me that like I don't know, I and like all this talk of like hadron colliders and like the Mandela effect, that like you can't help but feel like this is all one giant fuse leading to a giant bomb.
Yeah.
Whereas what actually gets you are weeks like this or weeks like last week where it was just Tyrell, just all flashbacks where you're like, I actually care about these people. And like that's actual storytelling.
I agree, and I feel the same. I think with me, every season, the story got a little more complicated and more dense, and I feel like I myself am like trying to think of these new theories that would have been way over my head in the first season. So I feel like that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it, and yeah, I love the characters. I still feel like I'm, caring about what happens to them, what matters, and so forth. This episode got me not hating Darlene as much, because I not that I hate her, but I kind of was just like meh towards her for a while, but now I'm like...
Well, there's been a lot of secrecy, and this show does a great job
Yeah.
as well of like keeping characters in the dark for very long periods of time. Like Tyrell is the prime example, because like we hardly saw him in season 2, and then we got a whole episode with him in season 3, and I think that's to be expected. You bring up Darlene, so I'll actually just jump right into Darlene and Dom. So Darlene has been in a safe house for some time.
Yes.
A safe house that's also a nice room. And the FBI set up a safe house, like, so she's been working Elliot, and like she's been this asset for enough time. Man, Elliot's good.
I mean, so it kind of picked up where the episode 2 ended up, following the subway scene, which I want to eventually talk to. But, she's in this house and he's there. He's like, he's Mr. Robot.
Yes.
Where I kind of picked that up right off the bat. And then when they're talking and then he switches. But I felt like it was such a like life in New York comics. How do you afford this?
Yep.
Like, how are you living here? And it's just everything
course.
is clearly
FBI.
suspicious off
Yeah.
the bat. But their exchanges are always so like Darlene and Mr. Robot. They're always so tense, and they're good.
Specifically the Darlene Dom stuff. Mm-hmm. This scene was money.
Yeah.
This was the scene we've been waiting on for a long time. In fact, when I went through that crazy augmented reality experience at Comic-Con, one of the 5 pictures they gave us was a picture of them picture of this scene, them at a bar with each other.
Okay.
Which is, I think, part of why there was some like any ambiguity that Darlene may not have been compromised compromised and isn't informed. The
I think
FBI
it's
was
interesting
gone.
that you say that it was when you were waiting for it. It wasn't something I expected. Like, I wasn't expecting them to have like a little bonding moment. I felt like it was kind of like a scene where I think normally I would have been like, Darlene and Dom. But I felt like Darlene won me over a little this episode. Just, I don't know, just following her a bit. And then with Dom kind of sharing a little bit of a vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
So it was nice. It was a scene I feel like I unexpectedly really liked that I wouldn't have normally, thought.
Yeah, and it was about them.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of motion outside of them where it's like, really, can you just buy me a drink and can we just like talk like people?
Yeah.
Where are you from? Why are you this way? What's your deal? Like, without getting into like everything else.
So what do you think was her motivation for asking those questions? Because I read a couple of different things.
I think and it also came back to that subway scene too, that like she deeply regrets what she's done.
Yeah.
And she feels she's done more harm and that she's really in a bad way and there's no way out. So a lot of it to me feels like she really just wants to understand this terrible situation that she's put herself in.
Okay.
So like, who is Dom? Why is Dom here? How did Dom wind up here?
Yeah, and she brings up the fact that she has no life now. She really hasn't had any other outside social interaction. She's been estranged from her brother. Her boyfriend got killed.
Yeah.
She's kind of been cut off from F Society. Well, the group that she was leading at the beginning of second season. So this is kind of like the only person she can talk to.
Yeah, that too. I think there is a level of.
But I read somewhere online, someone mentioned that, she might be potentially trying to hack her down the line. And, by asking her these questions, it kind of gives her an insight into like maybe possible passwords or logins, which I think is interesting because she, earlier in the episode, she gave up her identity or her wallet. I'm assuming it has her IDs and all that stuff to the girl in the subway. So it was kind of just like a thought that maybe it wasn't as just like a conversation. There might have been an ulterior motive there. Who knows?
Yeah, that is. I'm trying to think more to that. Like, there must be more to this than. I don't know. I also think we're seeing.
I mean, she's a hacker. It's not
Subway
completely
Girl
out of
has
the
to
realm
come
of
back.
possibility. Yeah.
Terrible. I hope she's credited as terrible pickpocket. She's probably credited as a pink-haired girl on the subway, but like, I don't know. I really liked.
That was a good scene.
That was a really good opening scene.
Yeah. I felt like I didn't know where it was going to go at first. And then as soon as I kind of picked up, I was like, oh, she's going to let her keep the wallet. She's keeping the Polaroid. But then it's also like she's confessing everything to this girl on the subway, that it's probably good for her to finally just get it out. Because like you said, maybe it's eating her up. She's starting to feel like the guilt of the repercussions. But at the same time, she's confessing to someone that, it's just a stranger. It's a nobody. And realistically couldn't even harm her because it's an unreliable source. Like this is a pickpocket at a subway. If she were to speak, no one's going to believe her anyway. I don't know. It was almost like a nice cathartic moment where she could say her truth without really having to worry about anything coming back.
Truly,
to bite her.
really not having to worry about it.
Yeah.
Because minus a cell phone video, like going viral, and the court of public opinion coming after her, the government's not coming after her. She's immunity.
Yeah.
She's cooperating with the FBI. So of all the people to admit their involvement to 5'9" publicly,
it's her.
She's the one that could be like, no, I did this.
Yeah.
Come at me. Oh, wait. The people that would come at me aren't. Because I sold out my brother and I'm a dead husk of human inside because of it.
Dead husk of a human.
I'm
like
working.
that.
I'm trying some stuff out.
I like that.
I'm trying out some, or at least emotionally. I emotionally feel like a dead husk of a human. Something like that.
So she holds on to the Polaroid, but then at the end of the episode, she leaves it behind. What do you think that means?
Well, you would think it means specifically that she's leaving.
Yeah.
She, like, that's her one baggage, and that she, whatever her plan is to keep moving forward and help the FBI and shut down F Society, involves her kind of burning Elliot. My question: why doesn't she think it's appropriate to tell Dom and the FBI that Elliot has multiple personalities?
I know. I've thought this too, especially because when they have the discussion of, why hasn't Elliot turned them in and, he could easily send an anonymous tip. I mean, they kind of ignore or kind of gloss over the fact that he could do all that, but then he's also putting himself in danger because what are they going to say? Oh, Elliot, you don't have to go to jail because it's not you, it's Mr. Robot. I mean, it's him.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Skynet in the chat has something really good. I think she wrote a note to Elliot on the back of the Polaroid.
Well, I was gonna go back to that. I feel like it was not just leaving behind something, but it's almost like a letter, a goodbye note to Elliot, just even within the picture.
It would probably be a goodbye note, but coded in a way that he'd get to whatever it actually is.
Exactly.
So this opening scene on the subway takes us to outside of Darlene's house. which is under surveillance by the FBI because it's Darlene's safe house. Darlene is obviously on that subway. They make a really good point to show us a Comet electric truck.
Yeah.
This is important because
Yeah.
Comet is the name of Sam Esmail's first film.
Oh,
That deals
okay.
with multiple realities and stuff. And
Cute little Easter egg.
and I believe Comet Electric, if you followed it down, would be owned by E Corp and would be some subsidiary of the electricity stuff that Elliot's parents or Elliot's dad specifically dealt with and got cancer.
Oh.
So it's all like
yeah.
really tight in that way.
That's good. I was noticing in that shot as well, besides the comet thing, there's trash bags everywhere. It's just like piles and piles of garbage, like on every corner of the street. Like, the shit's piling up, like it's just getting worse. It was just a
Well,
good...
because they created 5/9
Yeah.
created anarchy, and I think they're doing a great job. They're doing a great job of well, first off, with the Amazon Echo stuff, the Daily 5/9, they're doing a great job of like really like laying it on thick with that Alex Jones type of person, where it's like things are getting bad, folks. Things are getting terrible. You better sit in the corner with your tinfoil hat and your e-coins. You gotta have e-coins.
Yeah.
And like.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. I really enjoy what they're doing there, and they're showing the reality of like what would happen if you just if you left society to lose trust in institutions. And in season one,
Not as great as it sounds.
we
Yeah.
thought that's exactly what we wanted.
And now you're realizing that it's not that easy. Things are complicated and...
I had a random thought just now that I think this show is trying to tell us that anarchy is impossible.
I mean, I think it's possible, but I don't think it's a good solution.
Yeah, but
I mean, you can descend into anarchy, but if your goal is to do that because it's easier to reset, that's not the
But
case.
that's the thing, that anarchy, even when there's anarchy, it's actually an illusion, just like choice. I think is the deeper. I think there's the deeper part to that it's.
And the
You
people
think it's
you-
anarchy. You think you're creating anarchy. You think anarchy can ultimately lead to some type of utopia. Actually, Bank of E is still. Bank of E knew 5/9 was
Well,
going
that's
to
the
happen.
point. If anything, if you create an anarchy, it's almost solely for your environment. The people that you actually want that to bestow upon, they're the same.
Yeah.
We saw the head of E-Corps this episode. We hadn't seen him in a while. And he's fine. He's in the back of a limo, talking on the phone with Angela. His world, I mean, maybe
He
his
created
ego,
a currency.
Yeah, I mean, his ego, is maybe taking a hit. He doesn't feel, but at the end of the day, he's going home to a rich place. He's fine, and the people all suffering are the same people who are, in debt
And
are
stage
still
two
worse off.
is still happening.
Yeah. Oh, before we move on, I did want to mention the one other thing I noted about Darlene and that whole scene in the beginning was that she mentions, killing a woman. The
Oh, yeah.
lawyer from the second season. And I kind of like that they did that because that's something you forget. There's so much stuff going on. But yeah, she took a life, and again, it's just a reminder that it is eating away at her, something that, because in all of the chaos that we've forgotten, this is still a person, and she hasn't just moved on from that. That's something that's still haunting her. So I felt like I really liked that moment because it just again shows us that she's still internally dealing with all of this other stuff on top of seeing her boyfriend get killed and feeling the guilt of the destruction of the economic system and whatnot. And there's this person whose life she took. So I don't know, it was a really humanizing moment. I like that they reminded us of that.
Actually, while we're on Darlene, before we move away from Darlene, did you see what movie she was downloading?
Oh, I forgot. Yes, I do.
Shazam. With Sinbad.
Which is hilarious.
Why do you think that's hilarious?
Well, because Sinbad's not in.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
It's Shaq.
Okay. Shazam is a movie made with Shaq.
Yeah, where he plays a genie. I remember this.
But similar to the Bernstein, the Nelson Mandela,
Yes.
This is a very recent occurrence of the Mandela effect that people will fight you tooth and nail. That Sinbad was in there was a Sinbad starred Shazam.
I'm trying to think if Sinbad
Kazam-
even did anything.
No, Sinbad was never a genie in anything.
Is it called Shazam?
No, it's Kazam.
Kazam.
The Shaq
Oh my
movie is
gosh.
Kazam. She was
He
downloading.
raps in this movie.
She was downloading Shazam with Sinbad. It was
maybe
listed
they're
right there.
in this alternate
Which
plane Or
hypothetically would
There could be.
imply.
a Shazam with Sinbad.
Okay,
maybe
is now the time
to say maybe this is another universe.
Well, no, is now the time for me to go on my most up-to-date rant?
Okay, go.
Okay.
I want to hear this.
There are two universes that we're seeing. Elliot lives in one. Mr. Robot lives in another.
Okay.
But Elliot and Mr. Robot are the only conduit that can travel between them. Which
Okay.
is why Darlene never told Dom. The very simple answer that, well, when my brother's a revolutionary, he's actually a completely different person than Elliot Alderson, the guy who's just trying to cover himself. Elliot Alderson, in these scenes we're seeing with Dom and the FBI,
Yeah.
is in the reality where Sinbad starred in Shazam. Mr. Robot, with all of the scenes with Angela and E-Corp and F Society,
Yeah.
and Irving, because at least as it pertained to this episode, just condense it to this episode, exists in our reality, where the movie was called Kazam and starred Shaq. Now I'm second guessing
gosh.
myself the title of this movie.
Oh, I really like that. It's a good theory.
There's something there, and it would definitely fit the season arc that we've come to expect after 2 seasons of some type of perception shift. Yep, Kazam, 1996.
Yeah.
6% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think that's unfair. You know, it was a
I think Shazam-
lighthearted kids movie.
I think Shazam would have done a lot better.
Maybe Sinbad's pretty hilarious, but oh man, there's a lot there.
There's so much
like-
there. There's a lot there, but I think the fact that Darlene never told Dom,
Yeah.
the fact that the address to the Red Wheelbarrow Cafe is different when Irving sees it versus when Darlene, or even at a point Angela sees it, there's something here. You can let me know in the comments. You can let me know on Twitter if I'm dead wrong. Send me screenshots if I'm dead wrong, but I think there's a possibility that will be our perception shift, that somehow we're seeing 2 different universes at once, and the Hadron, the Hadron Collider,
Yeah,
the
I can
Hadron
buy
Collider
that.
can allow us to live in both, or allow us, the audience, to see both, and
then they could go to a reality where maybe the parents are
Yeah.
still alive without having to do time travel.
yeah, well,
Because-
and this actually does play into Angela and Irving's scene at the Red Wheelbarrow Cafe where she says, "Has he shown you?
Yeah.
Do you believe it?"
Yeah,
That, like, they're actually diving into what White Rose is saying.
and he says, "Yeah,
Yeah,
he
like
thinks
what
anything's possible."
White Rose is saying is, I can bring them back.
But going back to that scene with Angela and Irving at the Ribs restaurant, I don't believe him anymore. I don't believe Irving anymore. I feel like he lies to get the person he's managing to stay on their track. Because I believed him. I was just like, but then I really thought about it. I was like, has he really seen it? And how much interaction does he actually have with White Rose? Again, he told Tyrell the whole ordeal about, I have sons and my wife and so forth. And that was just, again, to get him. So I feel like he kind of knows what Angela wants to hear. And so I feel like he just said that. I don't necessarily believe that he's seen it. I mean, again, I don't know how important that detail is, but I feel like he lies to manage his people.
Or withholds truths like he did with
Yeah. He's dishonest,
Tyrell.
though. Yeah.
But he withheld the truth to Tyrell, because Tyrell was like, after this is all done, I want to take my baby and my wife
Oh,
on this
yeah.
vacation.
That made me sad.
Let her know that that's gonna happen. And Irving, like, with a knowing grin, was like, "Yeah, buddy, I'll get into that."
Yeah.
Irving knew full well she got shot days ago, and that the FBI put the kid up.
Rel is gonna, I feel like he's gonna freak out when he finds out the truth. And I feel like the baby's gonna be who knows where, and
The baby's gonna be in an orphanage. Social
services.
Do you not wind up in an orphanage? If you
I'm
go to
not sure
social-
how that works, but
I think you
feel-
wait in I think any child would wait in an orphanage until a foster parent picks it up. Although I guess a baby,
But I don't.
that baby might have foster
I
parents.
feel like
Babies
Tyrell's-
get foster parents pretty fast. It's
yeah,
kids. It's
that makes
kids.
sense. Like he's still very few months, I'm guessing. But yeah, I feel like that's gonna be down the line, that's going to be crazy.
Oh, that's going to be insane. Because
Yeah.
then if the baby has foster parents, he's going to like kill those foster parents.
Probably, yeah.
It's going to be bad.
It is going to be bad. I wanted to mention the scene with Elliot and Darlene at their apartment when he starts off as Mr. Robot, but then he just shifts to Elliot. I feel like I am uneasy how everybody so quickly trusts when the person within Elliot says, "Oh, it's me, it's Mr. Robot," or "No, it's me, it's Elliot," but because they never say, they just say it's me. Because then later, Mr. Robot says that to Angela, like, "Oh
It's
yeah."
me.
And they're just so quick to trust it. I don't know. I feel like my paranoid self would be like, how do you know it's not Elliot pretending to be Mr. Robot to get information? How do you know it's not Mr. Robot pretending to be Elliot to start? You know what I mean? They just so
Also-
quickly accept it as like, oh, okay, yeah.
The artist in the chat, is spelled with a 3 instead of an E. Didn't Angela get interviewed by a younger Angela? I thought that's why she believes White Rose. They never explicitly told us that. I'm assuming there's more to what...
Because it looks like her and...
I'm assuming White Rose showed her more than we've been shown, but that would actually make the most sense that she was interviewed by like 8-year-old her.
And that what's made
She
her
would
such
know.
a believer. Yeah.
She would know, and she always looks stunned. And that, what played the artist? I think that's the extra level. I feel like I have my tinfoil hat on every time I do this show, guys. Where I'm here. I'm just right here. Where I'm just like, get your e-coins. Society's gonna fall. You're gonna need e-coin.
And who are we talking to? Are we talking to Elliot or are we talking to Mr. Robot? But yeah, them saying it's me and then Darlene saying that's a complicated statement. So I feel like encapsulates Elliot and just that whole dynamic with him and Mr. Robot. It's a complicated statement.
Yeah.
Saying it's me. It's not that simple. And they're so easy to trust him. I don't get it.
It's not, but like,
I seriously, I would be paranoid every single time I talk to him. Like, I don't believe you, but.
I don't know. This is the Matrix in TV form.
And
without
then,
bad sequels.
And then Elliot kind of delves into himself and figuring out why he still doesn't really want to turn in Tyrell and the others. He kind of confesses that he still, even though he wants to stop them, he kind of doesn't. Or he kind of still wants to be a part of this thing. And if he stops them, it has to be on his terms.
Yeah. Well, and he's seeking Elliot's approval. So like,
What do you mean? You mean Tyrell's?
Or sorry, yes. I thought we were talking about Tyrell. Tyrell
No,
is
Elliot, because
Yeah,
Elliot, when Darlene asks him, like, why don't you just end this or turn them in? And he's that's not so easy for him.
no, because like he feels like he needs to see through whatever he did, which I think is important to him, or he needs to fix it himself because it was his ultimately
It's
his
actually
doing.
very like godlike complex of him
Little bit.
that it has to be him because
Although-
you might not be able to, and being able to turn them in or getting outside help could potentially be a more finite solution, but he doesn't want to go there.
Although in his defense, and he probably doesn't know this, had he gone to the FBI, unless he went
Yeah.
to Dom specifically, and even then Dom would hit a bunch of red tape
Yeah.
to actually prosecute, I don't think it would stop.
No, yeah, but I don't think
Because
he
Dom's
doesn't know
superior,
that.
because that's Dom's superior that's on the White Rose payroll.
Yeah.
Like on the Dark Army payroll, so it would only get that far.
But I'm sure someone is his superior.
Perhaps, but like Dom isn't
Yeah.
actually suspicious of him. We weren't suspicious of him until last week. Some of us weren't.
Yeah.
That like there's something to be said that I don't know. It's real interesting. What else do we like? I'm trying to think what else is happening. There's the F Society.
Well, there was that guy.
the guy who made the video.
He's eating Fruity Pebbles. I don't know. I
Fruity
just
Pebbles
caught
guy.
That. And then they come right to his apartment. He puts the mask on. And then they interrogate him. What do you think of that guy?
I think Dark Army specifically put him there as a patsy. Like that's his job.
That's what I thought at first.
That's very Chinese.
Until he spoke. I don't know. The way he said it, it felt very White Rose to me when they were
Yeah,
drilling him. Like, who's your leader? Who's your leader? Is it Tyrell? Is it, White Rose? Is it so? And then he was like F Society. I don't know. Just the way he said it, it was very like, I don't know. It made me feel like he's not just a patsy. I don't know. He felt very White Rose to me in that moment.
But I think he's a professional Dark Army patsy. By the way, this is a thing in China that like somebody will stand trial and get sentenced in your place in China if you have enough money.
What do you mean? Explain.
If I was tried for murder in China and I had enough money and influence,
Yeah.
I could literally just have someone else stand trial and be sentenced in my place.
Oh. I thought you meant like in your place of domicile. What? Like a substitute? That's insane.
You can literally have a substitute. So like
that's a thing.
If you're coming from a culture that allows that, it's not too far a stretch for there to be a whole cottage industry of people who just serve jail time for you.
That's crazy.
And I think that's what he may be.
That's insane.
I think he's the Dark Army's designated jail time server.
Okay.
That it's, you need to do this. You need to put out this video that causes this panic.
Yeah.
From this Vimeo, so people will come and get you without a second thought. You'll get caught in this mask, so it's unidentifiably you. All you will say is that you have no leader, F society. So that the FBI will write you off as a leaderless, decentralized terror organization with no connection to the Dark Army. Like, with less of a connection to the Dark Army and White Rose and, like, bold plans. Because it was mentioned this week that most people can't confirm the existence of White Rose.
Well, even when Dawn mentioned it in the interrogation, and then her partner kind of looks at her like, "You crazy?" And then later he kind of confronts her. He's like, "That's a myth. What are you even doing?" Sort of negating her off that path. Then it made me suspicious of that guy. Like, why are you like? What's the problem if she throws that name out there? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, there might be more people in the payroll in the FBI. But yeah, like it's like, oh, you're foolish to even mention that. Like, that's so nonsensical.
Also, a Sky Knight in the chat. My main question is still, why do they sometimes pronounce Tyrell as Torel and sometimes Tyrell?
Different worlds.
Different realities, bro.
Oh my gosh.
One reality is the Shaq reality. The other reality is the Sinbad reality. I think that makes it very simple.
Yeah,
I think I'm sticking
Sinbad
with
reality, Shaq reality.
The Sinbad reality, the Shaq reality.
Okay, so
everything
is
else.
Elliot in the Sinbad reality or in the Shaq reality?
Elliot is in the Sinbad reality because that was the reality where Darlene is. It is confirmed.
Okay.
Darlene was downloading Shazam, which does not exist in our reality.
Okay.
But I don't want to get too far. I don't want to get too far in the weeds. But does 5'9" exist in both? 5'9", you would think 5'9" exists in both. Otherwise, why would
so.
they?
Yeah.
But then they're all trying to get the one where 5'9" didn't happen.
I think
this is where it falls apart. I never said this was perfect.
Too much. It's too much. Darlene and Elliot have like a vengeance pact that they make this episode, which I thought was kind of interesting because kind of what I mentioned earlier, Darlene was talking about remorse for killing the woman in season 2. And now she kind of asks Elliot, hey, you know, if something happens to me, you're going to avenge my death, right? Which felt random.
Yeah.
Like I didn't expect that from her. It felt like, you know, like when you're like a little kid and you're like, I don't know, we're gonna make this vengeance pact and you think it sounds cool, but and then Elliot kind of reacts the way I would expect him to, like, what are you saying? But then he's like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And so it was a cool little, I guess, sibling moment, but then it felt weird, like they're both essentially agreeing to murder if one of the other gets hurt or killed.
So what you're saying is you're backing out of our revenge pact?
Damn it, you weren't supposed to say anything about it.
I mean, well, it was kind of well known by this point that we have if you mess with, it's mainly in internet comments. If anybody messes with you in internet comments, I'll come up with a burner and come to your defense.
Same.
And then similarly,
vengeance pack.
There are like 50 burners between us. So many Google accounts. It's just phones break off of alerts. It's a whole thing. I actually I enjoyed this a lot. I think part of why Darlene is the way she is, aside from like, and it roots from seeing Cisco dying and like seeing like the true reality of what she's done, is she's kind of dealing with like, wow, this is super serious. That she's not kidding when she says like, I'm probably gonna die going wherever you go. Can I at least have your word that you'll kill those people when that happens?
But it just seems like an odd request. Like I don't know. Like if you, I don't know, it's a completely different world, but if you were in that world and someone murdered you, you want them to go after them. I would feel like what I would think a more I don't know what a good word is. A better request would be like, oh, make sure that you fix, if I die, make sure that you fix this. Like, you don't stop the mission. You know, not like you make sure to kill whoever kills me. You know, it almost felt trivial. It was weird. It felt very odd in that moment. Again, I liked that they shared that little, yeah, I got your back and you got mine. But then, I don't know, that was just weird.
You're not wrong.
But
you're not wrong.
But she doesn't get killed in her tracking of Mr. Robot.
She merely finds out that
Angela is in on it.
Which I guess she doesn't know yet.
No, I don't think she knew, and I feel like she was surprised by that.
I guess she thought Angela was a corporate stooge who would sometimes help. I think who would sometimes help out society.
Angela was her friend. And Elliot's friend, and really not even involved. That whole scene kind of tripped me out, though, when she follows them down the subway, and then they disappear, but then she goes back up, and they're getting in a cab. Like, how did they get back up there? Did I miss something? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was kind of weird.
Yeah. People sleep. I think, like... A Sky Knight in the chat as well. So far, they've been very adamant about having Elliot not kill anyone. Elliot himself has not killed anyone yet.
That's a good point. So him even agreeing to that.
And him glitching back when he tries to strangle Tyrell might have something to do.
Oh yeah, that moment was really great.
With like, there's some type of do no harm function. Please don't make him a robot.
He's not. We saw guts.
Actually, you're right.
We saw guts. We saw guts. But
please
yeah, so
don't be a robot with guts.
In this episode, we saw Tyrell's, altar to Elliot just continue to crumble. He was like, we're supposed to be gods together. You don't make sense as a human. Or I think that's what he says, or as a person. And then they go into their back and forth. Mr. Robot is like, I could have taken the second shot. He kind of strangles them, but then I feel like, you're right, that's where he glitches, and I think in that moment, that's when Elliot comes back. He's like, I'm not letting you go this far to Mr. Robot. So maybe he does have some sort of control when Mr. Robot is active. Because maybe that was why he stops him from essentially choking Tyrell.
Perhaps. I got nothing on that. Like, that whole scene, I was just taking it for what it was.
Yeah.
That happened. He came back.
Mm-hmm. And then so he sees everyone... he sees Tyrell, he sees Angela, and he's like, what the heck? And so Angela drugs him just to make sure, they take him out. But essentially, if he remembers, he's going to know that all these people are in on it, that Angela's in on it. But it seems like they're going to try to keep him drugged, at least throughout the weekend, because stage 2 is on.
Well, and he's fired. So he can't, even if he wasn't drugged, even if he wasn't sedated, even if he wasn't anything, he does not have access to the E-Corp files to be able...
Right. But that doesn't mean he can't try to do something.
True. And, yeah. Are we ready for predictions? I think we've covered the board.
Let me see. I guess so. Oh, and then I also wanted to mention the whole phone metadata thing that they mentioned at the beginning, which I felt like was kind of like a recurring theme this episode, which I never thought about. Like, when you upload a picture to whatever, you're actually sending them your phone information, the data was taken, the place. You're sending so much information, I feel like, throughout this episode. Like, you had scenes where, like, if you kind of look deep enough, you're dropping clues into other stuff that's not necessarily what's the thing that necessarily unfolding on camera. Anyway,
I meant to Google what a dot par 2 is, because I feel like a dot par 2 would have a lot to do with metadata.
A dot par 2, what's that?
That's the file extension in the episode title. And if it's all about it's a parchive. That's... Oh,
and you also mentioned the voice scrambler thing that they...
Yes, if you Google voice scrambler, the first article is an article from The Verge specifically about the voice scrambler that Elliot uses. I only skimmed the article, but essentially it does work. It's a thing that exists that...
At first it sounded just like, I thought it was like a radio or something that was playing just to like play over their voices, but then it does sort of distort a couple of... It sounded like it distorts some of the audio and the ambiance.
Par 2 files contain error correction data that can be used to fix files that become corrupted using upload-download process on the Usenet. Where there's no built-in error correction, Par 2 files work with both Windows and Mac and can be used to protect any kind of file. So Par 2 is kind of like a... So like if something goes wrong, if you send me a file and something goes wrong, you can send me a par or a partial that will allow the file to actually still work for me.
Oh, really?
I mean, the file would have to be pretty big for you to not just have to send me the
Send it-
resend me the file, but that's a type of file.
Okay.
That's a type of thing that exists. So if you sent me like a 2 terabyte file and then something went wrong, you can make a partition or like a partial that will then plug all the holes so it'll still
Learning
work for
all
me
this tech stuff.
without me having to download a 2 terabyte file and you having to send a 2 terabyte file. It's a broadband. I figured it out.
Okay.
I got it. All right.
All right, cool.
I think that takes us into predictions.
Yeah, I'm good.
And now,
What?
your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Does Elliot undo the hack? Or does Elliot unredo? Does Elliot stop stage 2?
It's very bold to say either way. I'm gonna say yes. He does. He thwarts it somehow. He thwarts the plan. I don't know if he necessarily stops it or undoes it, but he thwarts it. Like it's not gonna go exactly the way they want it to.
I think he thwarts. I don't think he thwarts it at all. I think from what we're seeing.
Okay.
Because next episode is literally going to be a 60-minute commercial-free episode.
I'm so hyped.
Me too. And B, we saw specifically shots of Angela running through a graffitied and like bedlamed E-Corp office.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So it seems likely that stage 2 would create that kind of bedlam. So that means stage 2 happens.
I think stage 2 will happen, but I think he's going to thwart it somehow. The preview for next week got me so excited. They were like, it's going to be a TV groundbreaking event. There's all of these rumors and speculation about what this episode's going to entail. I'm really excited. The main one that has been floating around is that it's going to be a whole single shot episode. Have you heard that? A la Birdman. Where it's just like continuous the whole way. I've seen that in so many different places, and I think that would
Actually,
be
the preview
really cool. And it makes sense because if it has no commercial interruptions, it's just gonna be.
You're saying the whole episode's one take, or the whole episode?
It's gonna look as if
the whole episode's gonna seem as one continuous shot.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's Emmy bait.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great, but like, that's the Emmy episode.
Yeah.
If there ever was one, 0 commercial interruption. I'm going with that. That
I
sounds
feel like
good.
that might be, and that would be amazing. I love Birdman, so I feel like it would just, and with Sam Esmail, I'm sure it would look phenomenal.
Reggie Williams in the chat thinks stage 2 is going to happen. A Sky Knight in the chat thinks stage 2 is going to happen. A Sky Knight says that would be so cool. I'm pretty sure they're talking about the pretty sure they're Dillaman8. He is also Ryan on Twitter. Thanks again for asking the question about the benches. There was a thing about benches with the Cisco and Darlene.
Oh yeah.
Cisco and Darlene in the scene from last week. It looked like the benches were train tracks and that they were on the train tracks. I can't take credit for that. People on Reddit talked about that. I'm trying to think anything else. I gave a pretty huge prediction in the middle of the episode, in the middle of the after show, so I don't know if I actually have anything else.
Well, okay, so there's gonna be Bedlam. If Elliot remembers seeing seeing Angela, with Tyrell, his image of his, innocent friend, best friend who he trusts is going to kind of be shattered. I don't know, is that going to affect how, if he helps her or how he treats her in the midst of the chaos that stage 2 might? And
Does Tyrell find out about his wife and child?
Oh my gosh.
In the middle of stage 2?
I'm,
at
like,
the end of
nervous
stage
for
2?
that.
Next week at all?
And you know what's so funny? And they were mentioning in this episode, like, oh, after it's done, we'll go on a vacation, He was like, yeah, when he's saying, I want to go with my wife and my son, he was like, oh, we'll go to the Ukraine. Like, they act like they're not about to just, like, impose all of this cray. And it's something they can just go to a vacation to afterwards. It's so, like, matter of fact. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, next week, I am just really looking forward to it. It's gonna be crazy.
Let's see. Let's see anything else. When does Dom switch sides? 'Cause that's bound to happen.
Maybe when she finds out the truth about like her boss.
When she finds out that
how
she's
deep into the FBI, the Dark Army is, and I mean, if she does switch sides ever down the line, I'm sure she's gonna hold on to her job and still try to like work it from the inside, whatever.
Although it looks like her job falls apart. I don't know what's
gonna happen. I mean, it could be like after the first thing in season 1 where it just descends into more craziness, but then there's still like some control and order. I don't know.
Hopefully. Perhaps there will. A Sky Knight says, I will ride if Flipper dies. I agree. Flipper should not die.
Oh, they took him for a walk this episode.
That was fun.
Nice.
We see Flipper. Flipper's being taken care of. Flipper's good.
You know, and all this craziness going on in Elliot's head and around him, he's still, like, he's a good dog owner. He's like, I'm going to take my dog for a walk. He's not forgetful. You know what I mean? That's nice.
I think in the Kazam universe, Flipper's name is QWERTY. I know QWERTY's name was the fish. Don't hold me to these. I think because I keep making that mistake, that's something that happens in between those.
I mean, why not?
Do you have any predictions of the watch before we head on out of here?
No, but I wanted to quickly point out, because this week was Halloween, and I love Rami Malek, and he had a great Halloween costume that I wanted to share with you guys.
Whoa,
You probably saw
news.
it. You guys probably, I don't know if you guys follow him online, but check this out. Rami as Edward Scissorhands. I think this was one of my favorite celebrity costumes that I saw this week, and look at that jawline. Like, he looks exactly like him.
Yep. No, that really works.
And then this just also gets me excited for him playing Freddie Mercury also, because when you saw those pictures, it looked amazing. But yeah, I just wanted to share this because he looked so great, and he's one of my favorite
I'm
actors.
excited for him.
So
He's been one of my favorite actors for a very long time. He was on a 3-camera sitcom on Fox that somehow had 2 seasons called The War at Home.
Okay.
It was Michael Rappaport.
Oh.
Pretty sure. Yeah, who's great. I'm not saying that the show was bad. I'm just saying that it was long enough ago that 2-camera sitcoms or 3-camera sitcoms around that time were it suffered from a lot of simplistic writing, but his character on that show was pretty much like the friend next door who learned that he was gay.
Okay.
And it was this
now
well-acted.
I'm so Googling this.
It was
after
this
the show.
well-acted, well-researched, this really just well-acted character piece in the middle of this all over the place 3-camera sitcom.
Oh.
It was really fun.
That's
He was
funny.
really good in that, and then obviously he was in both Night at the Museum films.
Mm-hmm. And he has this tiny, tiny scene in Gilmore Girls back in the day,
yeah.
and it's hilarious, and it's just very him. And he has a little spiel in the middle of it because they're in a student group circle, and
I have
fantastic.
negative feelings about the brand new Gilmore Girls, which we'll talk about after this.
All right. Well, I guess
This is it. Where can the people talk to you about the Gilmore Girls and things?
about any TV show. I watched a crap load of them. You can catch me online on Twitter and Instagram at LesleyTheFace.
And you guys can find me on Twitter almost exclusively. I'm at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kaufmann. I also do a vlog called The Sober Year. You can go to thesoberyear.com. It'll take you straight there. I believe this is week 20, if not 21.
That's good.
I can't count. Or drink. I can't count or drink at this point. Thank you, friends, and good night.
Thank you, guys. Looking forward to next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Shazam with Sinbad.
Kazam.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.